you're working with a team and you kind of have perhaps a couple of new members in the team, you've not yet got to know what they can do within the team and where their skills are. And you might be, the team leader. And so you've read their CV and you know on paper what they can do. But it's not until you go out for a social and you really get chatting to them that you understand where some of their passions lie and where some of their experience lies that didn't make it onto the paper or into the interview or into your daily work life because you don't talk about that. And once you start to kind of have that social time with them, you then bond more as a team. You get to know where they can complement you and your team, where they fit in, what skills they can bring that you wouldn't necessarily have known about. And then if you think about that, like AI as the new team member, playing around with AI, using AI for fun first, and kind of socializing, I guess, with AI is a great way to discover where AI can complement what you do, what its capabilities are, kind of push it to the limits a bit with the fun stuff that you're feeding it, the fun prompts you're giving it. And then you'll understand and you'll know, so that naturally when you come to use it in work, you think, well, it could do that for fun. So it can probably do that for what I need it to do in my work life, in this campaign, in this design, whatever it is.
Mike's got the hat, the AI kind. Unlocking power in business you'll find. Cut through the hype, explore the tech. Every week, new ideas to check. All 10 leads us on a digital quest. AI secrets he'll always invest. Tune in tight, don't miss a beat. Knowledge groove, keep you on your feet. Listen up to the AI flow. Business growth, here we go. Cutting edge insights, that's the plan. With the AI hat, you'll understand.
Greetings, program. Welcome back to the AI Hat Podcast, where I selfishly use this time to pick the brains of experts at keeping up with and integrating or layering artificial intelligence into social media, content, advertising, search, and other areas of your business. And you get to learn too. Subscribe to be shown how to prepare yourself and your brand for this AI revolution and come out ahead. Now, you ever feel like you're trying to pilot the Millennium Falcon through an asteroid field of AI tools? You're not alone. The marketing galaxy is expanding faster than light speed, with new AI platforms popping up like droids in a Jawa sandcrawler. But here's the plot twist. What if mastering AI was less about decoding complex algorithms and more about channeling your inner Padawan? You see, there's a disturbance in the force. Marketers everywhere are scrambling to keep up, worried they'll be left behind in a cloud of Tatooine dust if they don't immediately integrate every shiny new AI tool into their arsenal. And this mad dash often leads to frustration, confusion, and sometimes even fear of the very technology meant to help us. But what if there was a better way? A way that's not only effective, but dare I say it, more fun than bullseyeing womp rats in your T16? Buckle up, because we're about to make the jump to hyperspace with our guest, Amy Walters. Amy isn't just any AI expert. She's the Jedi master of making complex tech accessible and the creative force behind Bloomify. This multi-award-winning speaker and trainer has been leaving audiences more starstruck than a stormtrooper at a rebel base with her ability to turn AI from a daunting Death Star into a friendly R2-D2. Amy's innovative, fun-first approach to AI has been making waves across the galaxy, from major brand headquarters to packed conference halls. She's not just changing the game, she's rewriting the Jedi text when it comes to AI adoption in marketing. Hey, Amy, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So excited to have you and to talk about this idea of fun first. I'd love if you could just start by talking about this for fun first motto that you've got and maybe sharing your story of how that approach changed your perspective with AI.
Absolutely. So I am a naturally curious person. I love exploring new things and trying out new tech, especially being someone who works in the digital world. So that philosophy of for fun first sort of came about naturally for me. It's not necessarily something that I learned and then that changed how I viewed AI. It's more that that's just naturally how I viewed AI anyway. So I suppose you could say that changed my perspective in that I was coming into AI curious. I was coming into it using those tools in a let's explore this. Let's see what it's like. Let's not get too bogged down in the details of how this is going to help me in my business or, grow massively in my business. But instead, let's just explore it. Let's have a bit of fun and let's play around and see what these tools can do just for fun first. So that's kind of where it all came from, just my natural curiosity of wanting to have fun and be creative whilst exploring new tech. And then later thinking about how it could help me grow my business or help my clients and that kind of thing.
And this is so fascinating to me when I started following you and learning about your approach. I have to admit, it's very different from mine. My mind naturally wants to have a reason for doing whatever it is that I'm doing. For me to just open up a tool and try to have fun with it just honestly doesn't feel natural, even though I recognize the benefits. And I think maybe it might be a corollary to just the fact that I'm working full time, I'm pursuing AI and the social media hat. I mean, that's been a side hustle of mine for over a decade. So I'm naturally time crunched. Or at least that's my perception of myself. And I know a lot of other marketers feel pressured to immediately use AI for work. So if you could share with us, how do you think that starting with this fun, this personal project approach helps build transferable skills? How does that help them transfer AI into professional use?
Yeah. So I was actually thinking about this a lot this week. And one of the things that kind of came to mind as an analogy is, when you're working with a team and you kind of have perhaps a couple of new members in the team, you've not yet got to know what they can do within the team and where their skills are. And you might be, the team leader. And so you've read their CV and on paper what they can do. But it's not until you go out for a social and you really get chatting to them that you understand where some of their passions lie and where some of their experience lies that didn't make it onto the paper or into the interview or into your daily work life because you don't talk about that. And once you start to kind of have that social time with them, you then bond more as a team. You get to know where they can complement you and your team, where they fit in, what skills they can bring that you wouldn't necessarily have known about. And then if you think about that, like AI as the new team member, playing around with AI, using AI for fun first, and kind of socializing, I guess, with AI is a great way to discover where AI can complement what you do, what its capabilities are, kind of push it to the limits a bit with the fun stuff that you're feeding it, the fun prompts you're giving it. And then you'll understand and you'll know so that naturally when you come to use it in work, you think, well, it could do that for fun. So it can probably do that for what I need it to do in my work life, in this campaign, in this design, whatever it is. And of course, naturally, I'm talking a lot about the creative tools, but this includes some of the large language models as well, kind of using them in a really fun, quirky way, pushing the boundaries, and then knowing how you can use them when it's not so social and it's a bit more for work.
That is such a great analogy because I was literally thinking about it, that employer and employee quandary earlier this week. I work full time for Agorapulse. We're I shouldn't say we're fully remote. We're a hybrid remote company. All the marketing team is remote. Engineering and product, they're all on site in Paris. But the marketing team, thanks to the pandemic, we haven't gotten together as a team much in the past few years. And there's plenty of new people that I have never met in person. So we haven't had that opportunity to develop those kinds of personal relationships and that ease of communicating back and forth that I know would make our professional relationship easier and stronger. And it's a fascinating concept to apply to our use of AI, to consider the AI like a coworker, which we've actually talked about on the show many, many times. But think about, sitting around at the pub and just having a chat with the AI for no business work reason at all. Love that idea. Now, when we were talking earlier, you talked about bedtime stories, and there were some other, non-work related ways that you were using AI. I'd love if you could share with us, what some of those were and how you're using it and how that process relates to marketing creativity.
Yeah, absolutely. So with this kind of fun first philosophy, one of the prompts that I often give people who come along to my talks or my workshops and webinars, I say to them, If you use AI, if you use ChatGPT or whatever large language model you're comfortable using, and use it just to create a bedtime story, then that can be a really good starting point to start to discover how AI works and how good it is. So I've got a friend of mine, she was actually my grandma's friend. So she's a couple of generations above me. And we sat together and we created this bedtime story for her grandchild using her grandchild's first name, her grandchild's favorite place to be, favorite activity, favorite teddy, and said, write an adventure that's a bedtime story suitable for this age using, this is her name, this is her favorite teddy who's coming on the adventure with her, make it a 2-minute long story that's suitable for a child at bedtime. And what it comes out with just blows your mind. And then the people who have never used it before, so my grandma's friend who had never used it before was then really excited by what you were able to do with AI and couldn't wait to start prompting it for a whole series of bedtime stories. So you can see how that can start then to get you using it for fun. But then you might be thinking, well, okay, bedtime stories are all well and good, but how could I use that in my marketing campaigns or even start to use that in content? But one really fun sort of time of year is Christmas, the Christmas season. Even the most corporate of accounts can get a little bit festive. And prompting ChatGPT or other with something like, write me a "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" style poem that's suitable for this audience in this sector, using these specific words that we use in our business. And then it will come out with a "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" poem that really suits your audience that you can then edit, get someone creative who loves a bit of poem writing or, copywriting. And then they can really refine that and choose the best verses. And you've got yourself a bit of creative content that's probably going to do quite well because everybody loves a kind of classic Christmas meets creative kind of twist on your social media account or wherever that is.
I love that. In fact, that's exactly what I did with the intro for this show, right? Where I have a showrunner custom GPT that I use as all of you, if you've been listening for a while, that I've talked about it before. But for this particular show, I said, hey, I'm interviewing Amy Walters. We're going to be talking about fun first. I obviously have this passion for Star Wars. Let's infuse that into the intro. So there's all these fun little analogies and references to Star Wars throughout, and it's obviously hyped you up. But that's the kind of creative writing that AI can do with just a few parameters, guidelines, boundaries that you give it. We want to talk about this. It's for this. And to your point, I've been teaching my youngest daughter, who's only 10, how to use Pi, the app Pi, right? And one of the things that she loves to do is build stories with the AI. So they'll start, I don't know how they start. She's got some premise, right? And then she'll type in part of a story and then stop. And then the AI continues the story and then stops. And they go back and forth on that, seriously, for hours. And she has so much fun with it because it is so creative. And of course, it's teaching her familiarity, comfort level, and capability of the AI the entire time. So as she goes into high school and college, I mean, just can you imagine years from now how advanced the AI is and how comfortable her generation is going to be with that technology, just as, we're completely comfortable with the internet and social media and so on. But I'm wondering, with the clients that you've worked with, how has this fun first approach helped them overcome their fear or their hesitation with AI? Because they haven't grown up with it like my daughters will.
Yeah. And with that, with your daughter, she is using it for fun first. And then you're kind of saying she's going to go, miles by the time that she's in college, uni, in work. She's going to be miles ahead in that. And it's because she spent those early years for fun first. So I think that's, a really great example of that, kind of just predicting in the future. And so for clients and people who come along to my talks, I have had so many people come up to me afterwards and say that just thinking about it from that way has suddenly brought them out of head in the sand. I don't want to touch AI. I am terrified about what AI could do. And it doesn't help that AI is called artificial intelligence. It's a huge, big, scary phrase. That does not help in the slightest. And from that place of being really scared and intrigued, quite a lot of them are intrigued, but scared and overwhelmed, to actually, do you know what? There's nothing stopping me from starting for fun first, for trying to write a bedtime story, for if you use Canva, for starting to use some of those creative tools, designing a birthday card for my child, my uncle, my grandparent, whoever it is, my best friend, writing my best friend who's turned 21 a really hilarious poem about some of the stories we've had together. There's nothing stopping you from doing that, because suddenly that's not so scary. And then they start to see that really, as you progress baby steps, step by step, it doesn't have to be from here to using it perfectly in my work and getting it right every single time. But it's those sort of that play and then the steps that you take, and then it's not so scary for them anymore.
Love it. So could you share an example maybe of a client that you've worked with or a campaign that you've worked on where this kind of playful AI experiment has led to some successful marketing?
Yeah, definitely. So talking kind of internally within Bloomify, we are kind of going through a rebrand. So this is one of the first sort of out there as Bloomify new name. We were Bloom Creative. And so we announced that on social media as something is coming, put out a teaser, and then, we're rebranding. And for the artwork for that, I had this big idea that I wanted it to be a kind of announcement that was something new is coming soon, some new changes are coming soon. And it was all written in like a green vine with leaves. And I had a really specific thing that I wanted it to look like. But I knew that making that for myself was not going to be, time and cost effective for the reach that was going to get and for the purpose that it was. But I knew that I could use Adobe Firefly and I could prompt with shapes and words. And then I was able to create something that was really quite realistic in the creative space for exactly what I wanted that to look like. So that was kind of a way of using it internally for fun, externally with some clients. What we do at Bloomify is a lot of design and branding, and some of that is web design. So we worked with a client this year who we took them through their branding journey. They bought the business, and so we helped them rebrand it so that it was new for them. And then we did their website for them. But they're on a budget. And so whilst we were designing their website, it wasn't something where they could bring in a copywriter into that package. And so that's absolutely fine. We work with clients like that. But what we were able to do is use one of the AI tools that we have to prompt it with all of their marketing information, ask them all of the right questions that we know we need to ask them about their target audience, about their target market, put everything in, their business values, all of that kind of stuff. And then we were able to prompt some really decent starter copy that they could edit themselves for their website and get that up and running. But the reason that they were happy to do that is because I sat with them first and showed them how you can use AI for fun. And this had been over kind of a course of a few weeks and months that they'd been learning that AI can be used for fun and what AI is capable of. So by the time I'm talking about us using AI to do their copy, they're saying, well, can we use AI for this as well? And what's the limitation to that? And can AI do this? And at what point do we need to work with AI? And they were asking all of the right questions. And then that went out online and they got so much kind of great sort of, the analytics were really great straight off the bat in terms of getting loads of email subscribers, which was one of their main aims when they launched, and also getting some bookings in. And that all happened within the first few days and week. But it was AI sort of powered copy that they weren't too scared to start with and play with and use. And so when they're on kind of a lower budget and they're doing stuff themselves, they're getting the right questions asked within the AI tool to create that content and have a website that is not just good enough, but also really working for them.
That is a fantastic example. Folks, we're talking with Amy Walders about how liberating it is to just have fun with AI. And I've got several more questions you're not going to want to miss. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. This episode of the AI Hat Podcast is brought to you by Magi, your gateway to making generative AI incredibly simple and accessible. Wondering how to seamlessly integrate AI into your marketing strategy without getting bogged down by complexities? That's exactly where Magi shines. It provides user-friendly AI solutions that empower marketers just like you to innovate and elevate your campaigns without needing a degree in data science. Imagine having the power to generate creative content, insightful marketing data analysis, or even personalized customer communications, all at the touch of a button. Magi isn't just about providing tools. It's about transforming your approach to marketing with AI that's tailor-made to be straightforward and effective. So, whether you're looking to boost your content creation process or want deeper insights into your marketing performance, Magi makes it all possible with a few clicks. No fuss, no hassle, just results. Ready to simplify your AI journey? Visit Magi today to learn how their solutions can revolutionize the way you engage with your audience. Don't just market smarter with Magi. Tap the link in the show notes. So, Amy, something else that you were telling me before was that you've noted many people are using AI in tools like Canva or Adobe, and they don't even realize it. How does that unconscious use of AI relate to your philosophy?
Yeah. So the kind of philosophy behind the whole like for fun first, using AI for fun, playing with AI is to get over that. It's scary, it's big, I can't use it. And so similarly, when you find out you've already been using it in tools like Canva and Canva's Magic Suite, then that breaks down that barrier that exists in your brain that says AI is too big and scary for me to use it. And instead says, hold on a minute, I've been using AI already, so I can continue to use AI tools and perhaps try some different ones. And Canva's Magic Suite is absolutely a really good example of that because you've got tools like the background remover and you've got ones that are more obviously AI, like text to image generation and text to text and that kind of thing. But some of those really subtle Magic Suite ones, if it's in the Magic Suite, that's Canva's AI area. And so if you've been using those tools, then you've already started to use AI tools. And then it's a bit less scary and you've potentially been using them for work already. So you might not necessarily need that start with fun if the barrier isn't there for you, because that's just broken it down and kind of potentially blown your mind a little bit. Some people who come along to the talks that I deliver go, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that tool in Canva used AI. I've been using it already. I don't know what I was scared of.
Right? That's something we've talked a lot about on this show, usually from the perspective of marketers coming into this, not knowing which tools to use and should they adopt a bunch of new tools. And we say, well, look at the tools you're already using because 9 times out of 10, they're already adopting many different capabilities of AI. They're, at Agorapulse, we have this feature where when you're publishing a new social post, you can use generative AI to change the post and spin it and twist it and turn it into different kinds of angles, like make it funnier, make it more serious, make it longer, make it shorter, that kind of thing, which is really cool, particularly if you're not a native English speaker or whatever language you're using. It can punch up that language without you having to be fluent in that particular language. So how do you balance this fun, this experimental side of AI with that kind of need for results-driven marketing applications?
Yeah. So it's exactly what you were talking about in terms of using it in the tools that you're already using it in. A lot of those tools, especially in the marketing space, that's where I'm in. I'm in the creative design space. And so I see these tools coming out. There are, of course, the tools coming out in places like the NHS that are brilliant, but really thinking about those creative sort of marketing design space tools, they're developing where they're already an existing tool and they're bringing AI in. Or they are an umbrella company and you've been using some of their tools and they bring in a new AI one. And it's not too hard for you to transition and start using that. So I think one of the things for me that I do is Photoshop is an example. Photoshop has some really cool generative AI features. And I was already blown away when they first brought out their Gen AI features. And since then, it seems like every time I open up Photoshop, it prompts and says, we've released some new AI features, come along, have a look at them. And just taking a little bit of time in those moments where a tool you're using pops up and says, we've got a new AI feature, just carving out some time to have a play with that, even if it's for 5 minutes, and do something really kind of wild and funky and different and nothing at all to do with work, can spark some ideas for how you can use it for work. And I suppose it's a bit like how people say, you should get outside once a day, even for 5 minutes, get some fresh air, and you'll find that it will kind of help spark your creativity and help you to remain focused. Just kind of coming away from a task for 5 minutes and having fun with some of those new tools, if you can, is going to really help you to kind of balance that. I need to work, I need to get stuff done, but this new tool is probably going to help me. And so if I have a play with that now, that can help me in the future.
I couldn't agree more, even though, like I said, this isn't an approach that I've often had. I was preparing for this episode, so last night I was using Magi, that tool that I mentioned a moment ago in the video, and they just released support for new large language models, new image generation tools, and new video generation tools, which means you can do a text to video prompt. And I hadn't really done a whole lot of that before. And so I decided, well, I'll just play around with this and I'll take the same prompt that I would have done for an image and all the images that I do for my normal blog posts, I use Dolly 3. So I said, well, what if I just take that same prompt and I run it through all the other image generation tools that he's got in there, which include Leonardo and Flex and a bunch of others, and see what the difference is between the output. I hadn't really done that before. I hadn't played a whole lot with the other large language models or the image generation tools. And then I did it with Luna Dream, and it was freaking amazing. And to your point, it immediately realized in my mind, oh, here's 3 practical ways that I could use this, which I hadn't gone into it looking for real ways to use this, but immediately it created a moving video of the bear that I use in all of my images. I always have this bear who's in human clothing wearing a fedora in this Star Wars setting, right? And all of a sudden now, instead of just a static bear in this setting, he's now moving and there's scenery moving, and it's just a short clip. And I'm thinking, oh, I could use that as B-roll in a video, right? I mean, not necessarily that clip, but something along those lines. And so that was unexpected to me. And I'm wondering, because we've talked about how doing this approach makes people more familiar with artificial intelligence. And so it raises their comfort level. But what are some other unexpected marketing insights or skills that you've gained as a result of this playful AI implementation?
Yeah. So aside from sort of similarly to you about trying and then coming up with those creative ideas for using, say, image generation tools or video generation tools, talking instead a little bit more about some of the large language models, one of the things that I did not expect at all, but I use all the time, is using ChatGPT as an external processor sort of platform. So bouncing things backwards and forwards where I've come up with an idea myself, and then I'm saying to ChatGPT, okay, this is my idea. This is who it's for. This is, my target audience. This is the market. Is there anything I might be missing? Or can you look at it from this point of view? And you have different marketing theories depending on, where you've trained in marketing and what you've learned. But one of those theories is around the 6 thinking hats, and it like ways to kind of analyze a different idea from all these different points of view. And you can put an idea into ChatGPT and say, analyze this with the 6 thinking hats. And because ChatGPT has all of this kind of information from the whole internet and everything else it's been trained on, it can then see, right, okay, so I know this theory, I know what they're talking about. This is the idea. And I'm going to instantly put that. And within seconds, you've got your idea through so many different viewpoints that you can pick apart. And quite often I then find that will spark another idea in my head where I think, oh, okay, well, you've said that. This isn't quite what you've analyzed, but that's made me think of this. So maybe let's change the idea to this. And having that sort of external processing thing, especially if you're working, on your own, whether that's as part of a team and you're working from home on your own, or you are a solopreneur and you're working for yourself by yourself, having that sort of instant, don't need to get anyone on a call, just can externally process, I have found really, really helpful and not at all expected.
Yeah, that's something I found as well. Because to your point, AI is familiar with every framework, every approach, every documented way of thinking about certain things, business, marketing, whatever. So when I needed to create a brand story for Agorapulse, I had a conversation with AI, treating it as an external processor and strategist. And, what are some typical frameworks for coming up with a brand story? I was familiar with Tamsin Webster and with Don Miller's story brand, but I'm not familiar with every framework that's out there, every approach to telling a brand story and crafting one. So we had a conversation. We decided what we were going to use, how we were going to frame it. I gave it all the information. And together we crafted the brand story for Agorapulse. And it turned out remarkably good. I mean, so good. And the process was fun. It was enlightening. It took time because something like that needs to take time thinking through these approaches. But still, it was really, really productive. And of course, from a brand perspective, it was a lot less painless for me. We didn't have budget for me to go hire somebody to just teach me how to do all this stuff. And I didn't have 3 months to read a bunch of different books, right? So we were able to go through that in a relatively quickly time. But one of the other things that's happening really quickly is this evolution of AI and these tools. And as they continue to evolve, how do you think marketers can kind of maintain this sense of fun and creativity while still trying to keep up or stay current with all this change in technology?
Yeah. So listening to podcasts like this one can be really like kind of helpful for that sort of staying on top of things. I think especially in the creative space, when you are creating stuff. So if you're the content creator, the designer, or the marketer who's been pulled in, who has some, design skill set to do that, you can get lost in design whilst having kind of, podcasts and stuff on that is sort of keeping you up to date with the kind of changes in AI and the new tools. But for me, I do some of that, but for me, it still comes back to trying stuff and playing with stuff, but being really clear. And I think you were talking about this earlier, being really clear about which products you need to do that with. So I will do that within Photoshop, within Adobe Illustrator. I'm really keenly keeping an eye on Premiere Pro's new AI tools, which they've keep teasing and talking about, and they look so exciting. So kind of in that space, that makes sense for me because I'm in design and branding and content. So keeping to those, I could get really distracted by, looking at the copywriting tools that copywriters who are integrating AI into their process are using. And I could have fun with that, but that would kind of not strike that balance of being able to crack on and get my job done, as well as having fun. So if you kind of have your focus, then you can really have fun in that space as new things are coming out, as new updates are coming out, like we were talking about earlier, and just really playing with them.
That is a really good cautionary tale, very smart approach. Let's not dive down every single rabbit hole. Let's not run after every brand new tool because there are literally thousands at this point. I spoke with Scott Brinker from the Chief Martech and HubSpot's ecosystem, and he does this Martech landscape analysis every single year. And just between 2023 and 24, thousands of new AI-driven apps and custom GPTs that were essentially new tools are coming out. And from 2024 to 2025, we know that's just going to be exponentially higher. And that's not feasible. That's not an option for marketers and businesses to pursue all of those. Nobody has that kind of time. And it's hard not to be distracted because we see people on social media all the time doing exactly that. They're reviewing the latest tools. They're saying, hey, 10 new fabulous things that you can do with Adobe, which is great if you're using Adobe. But if you're not, take a step back and think about the tools that you're already using. How can you be fun and creative with those? I love that approach. Thanks for sharing that. Now, for listeners who are inspired to start their AI journey for fun, what's a simple, enjoyable exercise that they could try that could potentially benefit their marketing efforts?
Yeah. So if you're like really starting from scratch and you don't already have subscriptions to different platforms, one that you could start with is called Goblin Tools. And I'm pretty sure off the top of my head, it's goblin.tools. And you don't
Yeah.
need a login to use that. And that can generate you a kind of to-do list straight away off the bat. Like you can put in something for fun. You could talk about packing for a holiday, or I had somebody put in like bake a cake, and then it gave all of the steps and the ingredients needed to bake a cake in a kind of tick off list. But in Goblin Tools, it's not just to-do lists. You can kind of go along the tabs, and there's ones that are chef. So you can put in, here's the whole contents of my fridge. What shall I have for dinner tonight? And if you're a foodie like me, seeing what it comes up with, the different ideas, it gives you like the method and the recipe and what of what you have, what you could make for dinner, and kind of having a play around with the interface Goblin Tools. And it has tools in there that's like the formalizer, which might be similar to some of the stuff that you've got going on in Agora Pulse, but it's where you can put in some text and then you can say, make this more. And then you choose from the drop down, and it can be like sassy and quirky and professional and funny and serious. And then it will come out with the text like adapted in that way. So by playing with that tool in that sense and using it for your kind of own personal gain, especially if that's like packing for a holiday and it's making a list for you, you can then start to use that kind of tool in terms of your marketing effort. And because it is very much a kind of, it's like a large language model but stripped right back, and it prompts you and it does the prompts for you. The more you use that, the more you'll realize how you could just go into ChatGPT and use an entire prompt and then start to create things. So kind of starting somewhere like that can then kind of help your marketing efforts further down the line just by giving it a bit of a go for your kind of personal gain or for fun at home.
Love that. In fact, you talked about packing for a holiday. That reminded me over the holidays this year, my girls and I were family. We're driving from St. Louis to Southern California to visit some family in Southern California. And we're driving. That's a 2-day drive. It's like 23 hours across the western part of this country. And I told the girls, look, we're going to go through Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, into California on one of the routes. And then when we come back, we're going to go through Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Kansas, and then back into Missouri. So I said, talk to Pi, tell Pi what we're doing, and let Pi suggest to you places that we can stop along the way, because there's some incredible things to see. In fact, too many things to see. But I wanted each of my girls to vote for the one thing that they wanted to stop and see along the way. And easy example is the Grand Canyon. That's what my youngest wants to see on the way out to Southern California. So that was just a fun exercise. But it also, I know, gave them even more insight into just what AI is capable of. I mean, just with that simple prompt, we're driving from St. Louis to Southern California. We're going to take these 2 routes. It was able to tell them all the things that most people would want to stop and see along those routes. And that's helping them understand how they can use AI for research and planning. Amy, this has been so much fun. You've just been an absolute delight to talk to. Thank you so much. For folks who want to reach out, they want to learn more, maybe have you speak to their business or at their events, where can they go?
Yeah, so if you head to @bloomify.design or bloomify.design for our website, that's where you can find me, or I'm really active on LinkedIn, so just search up Amy Walters Bloomify and I'll pop up on LinkedIn there.
Terrific. Thank you, Amy. We'll have all of her links and everything in the show notes, including all the tools that we mentioned. That's all the time we've got for today, friends. But if this is your first foray into the world of AI and marketing, I do have the perfect resource for you in the show notes below, the AI Marketing Primer, designed to quickly get you up to speed on the terms, the tactics, and the underlying technology that's powering this AI revolution. Check it out, and I'll see you in our next episode. Welcome to the grid. That's a wrap on another episode of the AI Hat Podcast. I hope you gained some valuable insights and actionable strategies to boost your business with AI. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. And don't forget to visit theaihat.com for more resources and to connect with me. Until next time, keep innovating, and remember, the future of business is human and it's powered by AI.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.